So in the movie Silence, we have 1700, around 1700, in Japan. They have gotten sick of Christianity, and the ruler of Japan decides that he wants Christians to be tortured and for them to apostatize, to give apostasy to their faith, to give up their faith in this movie. And in the movie, you can see the torture of Christians and priests. That this story takes part, as it's a non-fiction book written, but it was turned into a movie. But a lot of the details that happened were true. And they were tortured as there was boiling water being poured on Christians slowly, so it would hurt them and torture them more. They were wrapped in straw and put into a fire. Major torture. They wanted them to have apostasy. They apostatized their religion, to give up their faith in Jesus Christ, because the ruler no longer wanted it to be part of their culture. And here, all you had to do was step on an image of Jesus Christ and you were set free. If you didn't, you were burned. You were thrown in a fire. And here we have an incident with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Just like the ruler in Japan, King Nebuchadnezzar, wants to give torture to people that won't bow down to his gods and bow down to the golden image. King Nebuchadnezzar now realized that this time is when King Nebuchadnezzar took over. Him and his armies, powerful army, took over the southern part of Israel, Jerusalem, this great city of Israel. Took it over, and this is a time when many have exiled from Israel into Babylon, as King Nebuchadnezzar made them do that. Most Israelites were in Babylon, and he doesn't want them to worship the all-powerful God, but to worship his gods, and says to have them bow down to his gods. And not only to bow down, but to bow down to a golden image. And three men there strength in their silence. Absolute strength in their silence as they stand. These three men, Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, as they stand silently and protest against bowing down to the gods of Nebuchadnezzar. And they stand for their God, the Almighty God of Israel, our God. King Nebuchadnezzar gets all upset, throws him into a fire. The fire is so toxic that it burns and it kills people that prepare the fire. And these men, these brave men who silently, their strength was in silence, stood there. And their flesh was not burning. Their flesh. There was no torture. The flesh was not stenching. Nebuchadnezzar said, "Weren't there only three?" Asked. And he said, "Yeah, there's only three." "Well, why are there four in there?" And standing silently with their people, Israelites, was the Almighty God. And Nebuchadnezzar realized the Almighty God had kept them from burning and being tortured. And he changed. And he said, for these three men who stood there and their strength was in the silence of just standing, protesting, he said, he promoted them And he started to realize the power of the Almighty God, and that changed him. We have flames, just like they had flames in this scene, in this text of Daniel. Flames of hate and racism permeating our society and permeating in our souls in this country, as there was protests of white supremacists and white nationalists in Charlottesville, Virginia. Of white supremacy and white nationalists. The flames of hatred inside. We cannot live the gospel out of hate and racism, as one race is not superior to another, and one race should not exclude any other races. The gospel is about love and peace, not hate and racism. Micah 6:8 says, act justly. We have to act justly and stand against the atrocities and the white supremacists and white nationalists. Love mercy. Love mercy. We must forgive the white nationalists and white supremacists. And we must forgive those who vandalize property without proper legislation. And we cannot just vandalize property and destroy murals without proper legislation. We have to love mercy and forgive. And walk humbly with your God. Oh yes, the gospel is about love and peace. As Jesus Christ said, declare my name to all nations, not just to one nation or one people of color, but to all nations, and love your neighbor. There is strength in the silence of standing with your neighbor. No matter the doctrine, the creed, the faith, the walk of life, we cannot let the fires of hatred burn us from the inside out. It will destroy you if you have hate and racism in your heart. You cannot let the fires burn you from the inside out, because it will destroy your relationship with others. When you have hatred in your heart, you're going to destroy your relationship with others. People are not going to want to be around people that have hate in their heart and racism in their heart. And you are certainly going to destroy your relationship when you have hate and racism in your heart. Destroy your relationship with the Almighty God, who stood in the fire, in the strength of silence, with these three brave men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. There is strength in silence of love. There is strength in the silence. Strength in the silence of standing with your brother and sister in harmony. And strength in the silence with your relationship with the Almighty God. And love. Living the gospel out of love and peace, not hate and racism like Charlottesville. As they walked down, and there was protests in Boston, anti-white feminists and anti-white supremacists and white nationalists in Philadelphia and Boston. They walked down in harmony and peace in Philadelphia, from the synagogue on Broad Street all the way to the Methodist Church down on Broad Street, on Arch Street. From Broad to Arch they walked, but the strength was not in their chants or where their signs, but the strength was in their unity and their presence with each other as they stood there. Just like these three men stood and wouldn't bow down to Nebuchadnezzar's God. We don't bow down to white supremacy and white nationalists, but we fight against it. And we stand humbly as they walk together in harmony to fight against us, to stand for justice, to act justly, to love mercy. And guess what? When they walked from Broad Arch Street, from the synagogue to the Methodist Church, the Almighty God is standing right there walking in unity for justice. Cannot let the fires of hate burn you from the inside out. It will destroy you. Don't let the fires of hate destroy your relationships that you have with others. Because as the saying says, hurt people hurt other people. If you have racism in your heart, you're going to try to transfer that hate and racism to someone else. And you will hurt them. Or hurt the relationship with them. And you will hurt your relationship if the fires of hate and racism with the Almighty God, because you won't be living out the gospel according to the Almighty God of love and peace. As Jesus is the Prince of Peace. And Jesus taught love, not hate. The gospel is not about hate. You can't live out the gospel with hate and racism in your heart. You will destroy your relationship with God. But there is strength in the silence of love. There is strength in the silence of being with your brother and sister, walking with them in harmony for justice. No matter their doctrine, their faith, their creed, their walk of life, there is strength in that. And guess who will be there? Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I will be there. Jesus will be there. As Jesus pre-existed time, he was in that fire with Daniel. In the book of Daniel. With these 3 brave men. We have to distinguish the fires of hatred in our hearts. Distinguish the fires of hatred that tear down relationships. Distinguish the fires that tear apart the gospel, because hatred and racism are not part of the gospel, but there's strength and love and peace. And that's the gospel. Micah 6:8. We are to remember this as the true gospel. Act justly. Love mercy. Walk humbly with your God. There is strength in love. There is strength in walking and standing with your brother and sister in harmony and peace. And there is strength in living out the gospel, the true gospel of love and peace, not hatred and racism. Have love. Have peace. Again, the gospel is not about racism and hate, but love and peace. God bless you. Amen.